let's talk about what's on your plate. And I'm not talking about calories or ingredients, but something much, much smaller. Something you can't see. Something that basically uses your meal as a Trojan horse. Let's dive into this world of hidden dangers. Yeah, it's a bit of a creepy thought, right? That your food could be a vehicle for something that really wants to get inside your body and make you sick. Well, that's exactly the role food plays for a very specific kind of threat: foodborne viruses. So, first things first, we've got to separate these from the bacteria we always hear about, like Salmonella. The difference is huge. Bacteria can actually grow and multiply in the food itself. That leftover dish can become a full-on colony. But viruses, nope, they're just passengers. They need living cells, your cells, to do anything. Food is just their getaway car. So what we're really talking about here is a tiny, microscopic hijacker. It uses your food or water as a ride, and its only goal is to get inside you, where it can take over your cells and make more copies of itself. This is exactly why we call it a food infection, which is different from food poisoning. All right, so who are these invisible bad guys? Let's take a look at the most wanted list, the main viruses that cause foodborne illnesses all over the world. First up is hepatitis A, or HAV for short. This is the virus that's responsible for infectious hepatitis, which, just like the name suggests, is a disease that goes straight for the liver. And this is one tough little virus. It can survive in the fridge and even through some mild heating. And get this, the incubation period can be up to 45 days. That means you could get sick more than a month after you ate something contaminated, which makes tracing the source a total nightmare. The big telltale symptom to look out for is jaundice, that yellowing of the skin and eyes. And where does it like to hide? Usually in foods that get handled a lot but aren't cooked, like salads, sandwiches, and especially raw shellfish. Next up, the notorious norovirus. If you've ever had a sudden, absolutely brutal 24-hour stomach bug that came out of nowhere, you've probably met this one. It is, without a doubt, the world champion of viral gastroenteritis, causing millions and millions of cases every single year. If hepatitis A is a slow burn, norovirus is like a lightning strike. It hits you fast and hard with all the unpleasantness, vomiting, diarrhea, but thankfully it's usually over in a day or two. The catch is, it's incredibly infectious, and it loves to hang out in shellfish, bakery goods, and all those convenient ready-to-eat salads. Our final suspect is one you might not connect with food: poliovirus. Now, it's mostly controlled by vaccination these days, but it's such an important example of a foodborne virus because of how severe it can be. It attacks the nervous system and, in the worst cases, can actually lead to paralysis. Historically, outbreaks were linked to things like milk or pastries that were contaminated after they were pasteurized. This just goes to show how easily these viruses can be introduced by something as simple as unwashed hands. The first symptoms might seem generic: a fever, a sore throat, but it's that potential to cause paralysis that makes it so incredibly dangerous. Okay, so we've met the culprits, but the big question is, how in the world do they end up in our food in the first place? Let's follow that contamination trail and see how a single virus can turn into a huge problem. Okay, the main way this happens is called the fecal-oral route. Now, I know it sounds pretty gross, but it's so important to understand. It all starts with someone who's already infected. If they don't wash their hands properly after using the bathroom, tiny virus particles can get onto food or surfaces. Then, when someone else eats that food, well, the virus has found its new home. It's a simple and, a little unsettling chain of events. And it's not just about that direct route. Polluted water is like a superhighway for these viruses. It can contaminate crops while they're growing or produce while it's being washed. And like we've said, shellfish, oysters, clams are natural filters. So if they're living in contaminated water, they actually concentrate the virus right in their bodies, which makes them super risky to eat raw. All right, enough of the scary stuff. We've met the enemy. Now for the most important part. How do we win the fight? This isn't about being afraid, it's about being smart. So let's open up the prevention playbook. If there is one single thing you take away from all of this, let it be this: good personal hygiene is your #1 absolute best defense. Since the most common way these viruses spread starts with our hands, the solution is beautifully simple. And let's be crystal clear about what proper means. It's not a quick splash and dash. It means using soap and clean water and scrubbing thoroughly. especially after using the bathroom, and always, always before you touch food, whether you're cooking it or about to eat it. This one simple habit can break that whole chain of transmission right at the source. Think of your kitchen as your command center. So what are your key defensive moves? First, turn up the heat. Cooking food all the way through, especially shellfish, just destroys these viruses. Second, use clean, treated water for washing all your produce. And third, a golden rule of food safety. Never let raw and cooked foods cross paths. You have to prevent that cross-contamination like your health depends on it. Because, well, it does. And let's not forget one of the most powerful tools we have in modern medicine, vaccination. We actually have highly effective vaccines for two of the big viruses we talked about, hepatitis A and polio. These give you a really strong, long-term defense that protects not just you, but everyone around you. So while the whole idea of invisible invaders in your food can feel a little unnerving, the power to stop them is quite literally in our hands. The big takeaway here is that prevention isn't some complicated secret. It's just built on awareness and simple, consistent actions. It's all about turning knowledge into a habit. So the real question isn't just what you know, but what you're going to do with it. How will you protect your plate?